Hi, everyone, and welcome to our panel today, Women in Consulting. Today is December 6th, 2023, and we are really, really excited to share our journeys personally, some of what our firms have done to support us in our careers, and also things to think about if you are a woman considering consulting. So overall, we're just thrilled that you're here. We're thrilled that you are joining us. We're thrilled that you gave us your questions in advance, and we're really excited and have put together an incredibly powerful, insightful, and an enthusiastic panel today. So just quickly, an agenda for today, we'll give panelist introductions and a response to an opening question, which we've selected. Then there will be moderator curated questions. These are some of the general questions that we hear in the over 150 trainings that we do every year. Then we'll do audience Q&A. We've selected some of your questions to add in. In addition, if you have other questions that you think would be good for the whole audience, you can type those into the chat. And if we have time, we will cover those in the session today. And then finally, there will be a closing question. We're asking everyone to please stay on mute for the duration of the session. That will create a great listening experience for everyone. But there are some folks that are going to be in the chat to attend to your personnel questions, and we'll highlight those in just a minute. In addition, Dave, if you want to go ahead to the second slide. We have at Management Consulted just a few things that we want you to know about. We have a December case prep cohort. This is our last one, of course, of the year. The focus is for MBAs who are interviewing in January. And the kickoff for that is on December 19th, but you can get started with coaching right away. In addition, we have a January strategy sprint where we'll run you through a 1-week project with a US-focused firm. This one's going to be a really fun and interesting project. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope that you'll consider joining us for the January strategy sprint. Strategy sprint is great for you if you're interested in breaking into consulting. And if you are interested in either one of those options and want to talk to somebody in advance, my colleague Eden Simon is here today with us on the call, and you can schedule a meeting directly with Eden. You can even call or text us with specific questions. And if you go to the QR code, you can do that, as well as connecting with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to stay connected because we have great, fantastic programming just like this one that we're offering all the time. And with that, it's time to kick off the panel. We can move to our next and final slide so I can introduce our panelists that are here with us today. I'm really excited to have them each go through and share this. So we'll keep this slide up during some of the introductions. But as we're going through the panel today, you can actually scan the QR code at the bottom left. Each of the panelists have provided us with information that shares how you can get connected with their organization. And the great news about today is that every single one of the firms that are presenting are hiring. And so for those of you that are interested in careers in consulting, which we know is most, or at least many of you, then this is an awesome opportunity to connect with them. In addition, for each of the panelists, as we go through with the introductions, if you do have a secondary team member here today that you would love for somebody to chat with if they have questions about your organization, please make sure that they know what the name of that person is. Great. We are ready to get started. So we'll start with Patricia. Patricia, welcome to the panel. The opening question is just please introduce yourself, introduce your firm, if applicable, introduce your practice area, and then share one reason that you think women should consider a career in consulting.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me today. Thanks for everyone that's joining. So I am Patricia. I am a partner and managing director at A&M's Consumer and Retail Group. I'm going to refer to ourselves as CRG for the rest of our podcast. Our group was started about 4 years ago, and I'm one of the partners that helped stand up and build the team. We're about 160, 170 people today, and we're part of a much larger firm, which is Alvarez and Marsal. My career in consulting spans over 2 decades. So I've literally experienced multiple stages of what it's like to be a consultant and a woman in consulting. So I started straight out of college in the late 90s in Brazil at another firm. I then transferred to the US after business school. So I had to learn how to be a consultant and work as a Latina in a US work environment. And then I guess for the second half of my career, I have experienced consulting as a mom. I have a 12-year-old daughter, Isabella. Why I think you should consider a career in consulting. I think one of the reasons I think it's a good career, though I believe it's a challenging one. I think consulting opens up many options inside consulting and outside of consulting. And I do believe that as women, we always have to make very strategic, thoughtful decisions around choices that we make. And I think choices that gives us more choices and more options are always the better ones. So for me, that's kind of one of the top reasons why I think you should consider a career in consulting.
I love that. I can't wait to dive into it further. Patricia, welcome to the panel, and we're really, really excited to have you here. Wonderful. Ishita, you're up next.
Hi,
Introduce
everyone.
yourself, your firm, share one reason why you think women should pursue a career in consulting.
Sure. Thanks, Jenny. My name is Ishita. I am currently serving as Chief of Staff for DKI Health. I've been into this HR experience for more than 9 years. As far as my company goes, DKI Health is an amazing strategy boutique healthcare consulting firm serving, biopharma healthcare organization. And we are very proud to say that, we are the first entirely minority and women-owned strategy consulting firm in United States, mainly focusing on healthcare industry. The co-founders of this company are women. They're two lovely, beautiful women, Deepa Dehal and Karen Diliel. And yes, we work with companies who hold a bold vision, which our founders have created. And the mission, what we are working on, is to serving humanity, from whole, by moving, I would say, by serving humanity and, making not just medicines, but also more science, which is more accessible to both patients as well as families. As far as the question asked is why women should consider a career in consulting. Now I would say there are numerous compelling reasons why women should join, but to name a few. Firstly, I guess consulting is an unparalleled platform, for continuous learning. It gives you, I think the nature of work exposes every individual who wants to be in consulting to a wide area of industry. There are a lot of mentorship, networking opportunity, a lot of business challenges. As said by Patricia, it's a very challenging job. And it definitely allows you to develop all the leadership qualities, to make any impact at a strategic level, and as well as client handling. So yeah, these are the few things what I think.
Thank you so much, Ishita. Welcome to the panel. We're so excited to have you here today. Great. Next up is Regine from Palm Tree.
Thanks, Jenny, and thank you to your whole team for facilitating this discussion and providing an opportunity for everyone to at least have this opportunity to ask questions and for us to network. I'm very, very grateful to be here. My name is Regine Myrick. I'm a director with Palm Tree, and it is as delightful as it sounds, a consulting practice where we are primarily focused in the middle market with mergers and acquisitions, so M&A as you know it. We started probably about 15 years ago, and we primarily focus on financial due diligence and then do more consulting work after a transaction on the finance side. So think primarily those first 100 days after a company is acquired and all of the things you have to do to get the financials ready and going. Those are the type of consulting gigs that we are involved with. And then, of course, there's the other side, the sell side, and we prepare and help companies for that process along through our investment bank. So we're a little bit different. We're an M&A consulting firm, but we also have an investment banking wing, which I think will tie in nicely toward the end of the question here. I personally have been in the consulting industry, whether it was through public accounting or doing corp dev, for about 15 years. I am a mom of 2. I live in Dallas and have the pleasure and honor to open the Dallas office for Palm Tree, and have had a really great opportunity with this firm to grow it from about 30 people to about 120 people today. So that's a little bit about me and Palm Tree. So the question is, I think, why should women be in consulting? And I think my answer would be the same if it was women or men. Exposure. It's absolutely fantastic exposure. If you're someone that gets quickly bored, or that you don't want to sit in the same type of environment doing kind of the same thing over and over again, consulting is a great way to keep it fresh, keep your mind moving. And as anyone who is a mom kind of understands, when you're in mom mode, you're using a very different part of your brain versus when you're in work mode. So I think consulting kind of fits in really nicely with the things that I've done personally in my life. Then there's the fact that consulting isn't for everyone, but it's a great place to start. And so you get this great exposure, you identify industries or practices, and you can kind of dig into it and realize, okay, that particular gig, that was really interesting to me. And you can double click there, you can dive in deeper and maybe hone in on that particular engagement if that's what you want to do. So I think it's a great exposure, and I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for having me, Jen.
Amazing. Love that background. Thanks so much for joining. And last but not least, Stacks, Shoa, we're excited to have you on the panel. Will you introduce yourself, your firm, and share a key reason why you think it's great for women to go into consulting?
Perfect. Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Shoa. I'm an associate director with Stacks, and thanks for having me here. Really excited to sort of talk through some of the questions that Jenny and team have sort of curated here. Before Stacks, I used to work at Strategy and another boutique consulting firm. And so I've been in consulting really all my career since graduation. And so have, had the pleasure and also seen some of the challenges of growing up in consulting post-graduation. Stacks itself is a global strategy consulting firm with offices in US, London, and Sri Lanka. We focus primarily on private equity, and we're built to really serve investors and management teams, across their full investment cycle. So whether it is on the commercial side, on the buy side of it, or it's value creation for their portfolio companies while private equity is holding on to them, or it's on the sell side, again, more on the commercial end of getting them ready to actually sell their business and sort of create the value that they had invested in for the first time. The firm itself is actually, 30 years now, and it has evolved quite a bit since its inception. And I think over those 30 years and more recently, we have grown tremendously, not just within the US, but expanded more recently in London. And how we differentiate really ourselves is our high focus on expertise across verticals. And so we focus on healthcare, technology, consumer, and business services primarily. And within that, we have really high senior level involvement. And we're built on a philosophy of just limiting hierarchies in the consulting workplace and really supporting and consultants who exemplify more of that entrepreneurial spirit to help us grow together. And it's been really exciting being part of a firm that continues to grow, continues to expand, focused in sort of an area around M&A strategy, which I personally really enjoy. In terms of thinking about why I would, think about consulting or recommend consulting for women, I think very similar to what Rosine said was, I think it's similar for men and women. I don't think it's really a different aspect if you're a woman or a male colleague choosing to do consulting. It really comes down to what you really enjoy doing. And so what has drawn me has been around the fast-paced environment and just having the opportunity to learn and work on different aspects, right? Like looking at different companies, looking at different industries. Within Stacks, it gives us the ability, as we're working with private equity clients, to be able to work with really intelligent clients who push us to do some of our best work. It's challenging at times, but it's also really rewarding and satisfying. And as some of the other, panelists have said here, it really sets you up to do other things. If you choose not to want to do consulting, want to go on in other types of roles or even industries, it really sets you up how you think about problems, critical, thinking and problem solving, which again, really help you set you up for success wherever you want to go as you're growing in your tenure.
Amazing, Shoa. Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. We're really excited to dive in. I'll introduce myself. I'm Jenny Ray LaRue. I'm the CEO of Management Consulted. And one of the reasons that I wanted to do this panel as our final crowning achievement of 2023 is that I got what I felt like were an inordinate number of questions from women this year related to trying to opt out of consulting because of it being a concern around work-life balance, because of feeling like there were maybe other places where they could build the life, the family, and everything else that they wanted. And I just got kind of upset, honestly, because for me, consulting actually was the pathway to do exactly that. And I feel like a lot of our role at Management Consulted inside this industry is to help to translate things between what people have expected them to be and what they actually are. So that's our opportunity today, is to really share openly with y'all. If I had opted out of my time at Bain, I don't think that I would have the work-life balance that I have today, to the point where my children aren't even sure if I work. They're not even sure if I, they're like, we see her going places sometimes and there's things that are happening and occasionally she's flying somewhere, but like, it doesn't look like work. We're not even sure because I'm there with them at their concerts and their performances. And what I did was, for me, I can speak from a different perspective from everyone today, but I went through consulting to go somewhere else as well. And I really just think that one of the reasons why I'm such a strong advocate for this industry and a leader in the space is because I believe in it so deeply as a place to build both foundational careers and lifelong careers. So I just wanted to let everybody know I've got a little bit of a fire in my belly today when I'm sharing about consulting and about women in consulting, because I would like to see more women opt in and not out. I think that your voices matter, but I also think that the life that you're looking for can be found both here and through this pathway. So welcome to everyone again. I'm excited to dive into some of the moderator questions now. So the first one here, and I'll address this first to Palm Tree, is what is a challenge you faced as a woman in consulting and how have you navigated it?
Okay. So many challenges. I'm trying to be very specific about challenges as a woman. And I think the biggest challenge that I had in my career, and just to kind of lay the land here, I think I've been through the Great Recession, the dot-com bust, a couple of huge macroeconomic shifts where we weren't really sure what was going to happen, including a pandemic. So it's been a journey, a career journey. And one of the things that I was most excited about when I first started was really having a level playing field. And I like the idea of inequality just it wasn't an issue anymore, right? Whereas, at the time it was like 2007 and that's not a problem.
We are modern women. Yeah.
We were, yes, exactly. Boy, was I wrong. I was just shocked at how prevalent it was. Pay inequities were pretty much everywhere. Opportunities were everywhere. Work that I did that was actually given to a male colleague and he got the credit for it. So the amount of times of the things that you had heard about or read about and actually became more real, it was eye-opening. And so I managed through it because I spoke up for myself. Sometimes it did not work out really well, and sometimes it worked out really well. But at the end of the day, I was comfortable looking at myself in the mirror. I was comfortable, and I happened to have 2 girls, so it was very motivational for me to make sure that whatever decisions I made were good examples for my kids, and not just my kids, but also other women that were coming into an organization after me. So none of that is going to be easy. It's going to be tough, and it won't actually go exactly as you plan it. I hope that all of you will never have those issues, but to the extent you do, I hope you have a community around you that you can leverage. I was lucky enough to have several women in my community that were very good mentors, and that I was really fortunate enough to discuss what my next steps were, and just being able to kind of strategize from a career perspective and also from a goal perspective. Is this a company that I should stick with to maintain what our growth should be, or is there a time where I should just bail and go find something else? And one thing that I've really come to realize is once you find an organization where you align with on your values, that will be a big differentiator to your growth and your position in that growth, and then hopefully one day in the leadership, so that you can then be a part of changing and shifting the environment as you see fit. I know we weren't trying to go deep immediately, but
Oh yeah,
there
we
you
were.
go.
I'm like, I kind of want to double click on one or two of those things.
Sure.
Do you mind actually if I do? Can you share
Not at
about
all.
one of the situations that didn't go well? Like when you were kind of like, hey, I'm going to speak up for myself, and it didn't go great. And I'm guessing it probably wasn't at Palm Tree. I'm guessing it was earlier.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk about it. I'll tell you, I lost my job. The job was gone. I had a kid at home. My husband and I had decided that he was going to be the guy at home, and I was going to be the one bringing in the dough. And boy, did that all just blow up in our face when all of a sudden I was left without a job and a kid at home. So total panic mode. The safety net that we had kind of started developing and building all kind of fell apart. And I probably, my husband and I joke that if that had happened around the pandemic, I don't think our relationship would have been exactly where it was, but it was a couple of years before, and we both just grabbed the opportunity and figured it out. And we did therapy, which was also very helpful. And we also decided to really kind of focus on what was truly important. And honestly, that's actually how I managed to find Palm Tree, was after this dark path of kind of building a lot of questioning the authority that I was working for, and that not really having good trust between my employer and myself. I stumbled into a consulting company, a middle market consulting company. And one of the first things that I did was go check out their leadership site. It's like, oh, a lot of guys. And then I come in to visit in the office, and one of the first questions they ask, tell me about your kid. Okay. And I realized that at the very bottom of my resume, I had actually put in that, little interest about yourself was, I said something about my precocious 2-year-old at the time. And that was the first question they asked. And long story short, I very much realized that my values were very much aligned with the folks at Palm Tree. And even more so that I was one of the first women that they hired that actually got pregnant. And so they realized, oh, we don't have a maternity leave policy because we've never had to have one before. And they retroactively shifted the policies so that I could get fully compensated while I was out on maternity leave. So the fact that I went from a speak up for yourself, lose your job, to we really value you, we understand your contributions here, and we are not just going to compensate you fairly, but also ensure that you're supported. Huge difference.
Awesome. I feel like that was a worthwhile double click. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
Patricia, over to you. So back to the question, just because it's been a few minutes. What's a challenge you face as a woman in consulting, and how have you navigated it?
All right. So I'm going to answer this question a little bit differently, Jenny, because yes, I agree. There's so many challenges. And I actually think the challenges only grew as I became more senior in my career. And I never thought that was actually going to happen. But on the flip side, I also think I'm in a position now that I can actually make impact and make changes. But I've been spending a lot of time over the last several weeks just thinking about how I deal with the different challenges that come through. And, maybe like a consultant, having a little bit of a consultant brain, I try to like bucket these challenges in different ways. So I kind of know what is the best way for me to react to it. So I have like, there are challenges that I think fit into, we just don't have yet the right policies or the right training or the right infrastructure in place, right? So could be a better maternity leave, right? It could be, and so those I can tackle in a very rational way, and I can actually make changes. I can bring it up. I'm part of leadership, so I can actually say, okay, we didn't have it. We now need to have it. This is where we need to go. Then there is kind of a second bucket of challenges that I feel like just come from interactions with people that you know really well and that you really trust and you admire. And then all of a sudden, there's something that comes up and you're like, this is not quite right. But you know that they are coming from a good place and they're in their own kind of learning journey, like we all are in our own ways, right? So we all have things that we're learning about, other groups, right? Other minority groups in our firms, right? And so, these are challenges that I think I can address with a little bit of sense of humor, but in a way that I can actually get them to see my point of view in a not confrontational manner. And I think that in several instances, I've been able to make a difference. And, they've come back and said, yeah, never thought about it that way. I get it. And then there's the third bucket, which is just complete outrage. Because that's kind of the stuff that you're like, what is this really still happening? And am I really in this situation? And did you say what I think you said? And then that's the bucket that I haven't quite learned how to really react well to, because I either will come back, very strongly and I will be literally outraged, or then I will be just really upset afterwards, right? And that's the bucket that, I'm still dealing with, but I feel like in those cases, there's not a lot that I am going to be able to say, even though I think we should still say it, that it's going to change that particular person. But I do believe that the fact that I am in the room or in that meeting and that thing happened, it's already a huge progress because we had not been in the room before. And I do believe
say it louder for the people in the back. That's right.
I think someone else in their lives that they're closer to, maybe it'll be their daughters, right? That they will listen to, will tell them that's not cool. Can't do that, can't say it, you've got to act differently, and then maybe they'll be able to get through to them. But yes, and a lot of challenges happen across those three buckets. So, every day is a new day.
Can I just clarify something? I think you said this, but I just want to make sure I heard you right. You said that for you, part of how you're navigating the challenges is just not leaving. Like staying present in the room or in the conversation or in the moment, and pushing through, not just for your benefit, for others. Is that what you're saying? Because as part of that question, right? How do you navigate it? Is that your advice, right? Just don't leave, right? Because our voice matters.
Yes, and I don't want to sound like, oh my God, I'm a hero and I'm carrying the torch, because there are days that I'm like, I'm done with this. Right. I'm really tired. But yeah, you kind of have to do it. Yes.
I love it. All right. Well, this is so real, y'all. Thank you for sharing. All right. So let's go on to the next question, which is, what is a common myth or misconception about women in consulting? It could be getting into, working in, relating in, etc. So Stacks, I'll have you go first on this one.
Sorry, I was just finding the unmute here. Yeah, I think a common myth, I mean, there are many that we can talk about here, but I think one that I feel strongly about it and sort of have seen as I've grown in tenure as well is just what a female leader should be, and the expectations of what their personality or behavior should be around whether, she should be nice and soft-spoken and less direct and sort of this like beacon of positivity. And if she isn't, she's sometimes considered abrasive, you're too direct, and, you're kind of difficult to work with. And I think that there's that subtle sexism of just wanting to see the female leader be to exemplify stereotypical feminine traits, which I don't believe are needed to be successful as a leader in consulting. I think that, just like male colleagues, all women have different personalities, have different communication styles, have different areas of development. And I think this myth really is a challenge for women to be authentic, to be their authentic self at work. And I think that that's something that as we're sort of, have more representation, have more people, who look like us within consulting, or even, where Stacks is focused on private equity, which is also very male dominated, is our ability to be able to just be who we are. And we don't have to be one way or the other just because we're kind of bucketed into a female leader, versus, just that we're there doing the same work, and, putting in the same hours as any other male counterpart that we have.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. Love it. And DKI, a common myth or misconception about women in consulting.
I think I have seen the women who are working in my company, and most importantly is like, and especially in the market, what I see is like, the contrary to the misconception, the woman may lack assertiveness. I think in many women in consulting, they're showcasing strong leadership skills. They have been effectively leading teams. I'm seeing it in my company. I'm seeing like, there's predominantly a very good amount of, work-life balance, which is the most common misconception around like, I know consulting is very hard. It's very challenging for both men and women. But I guess, however, for women, I think they have additional complexities due to the responsibilities, outside their work, their family, the parents, children, managing household. So, but I think they are doing it. I'm seeing it in my company. People do it. And it's amazing to see when women around me, they are able to do it. Negotiation skills, I don't think nobody can beat a woman, in negotiation skills. So I think because of the strategic thinking, they have the ability, to navigate through any kind of complex business scenarios. So yeah, this is what I would say, like, there might be many misconceptions, but I think women can beat every misconception.
I love it. Ishita, that reminds me of something that I heard about women when I was in undergrad and first studying microfinance, right? And it was that over 90% of microfinance loans are given to women because they're both faithful to pay them back and faithful to invest them in something. And I feel like it helped me gain an appreciation of what women can do in communities to uplift them. I think we'll have to have a second conversation about how we educate our partners at home about being a woman in consulting, because that's like a whole other story. Right now, we're talking about how we do this inside the workplace, and that's been something that I've certainly had to navigate. But thank you for sharing that perspective. I do think there's a lot of opportunities to embrace that flexibility. Yeah. Let's talk about this one. I'd love for everybody to share, but just honestly, a little tactically, and then a little bit more briefly, because I want to get back to some of the audience questions here. But can you just talk about your firm now? How does your firm support women? And if there are any, not just current activities, but future plans for how you are going to support women, that would be great. It would be awesome if you can highlight everything, including in the recruitment process. So if there are, women's groups or kind of like women's cohorts or women's conferences, et cetera, that you are a part of before somebody joins your firm, that also would be helpful to know. So we'll go in the reverse order here. So Ishita, do you mind if you share with that one?
Sure. So as said earlier, DKI, we are entirely minority and women-owned strategy consulting firm. Diversity is, I guess, in the forefront of our values. At DKI, we have a lot of leadership programs which go on. I would say we encourage our team members to participate in all these leadership programs. We have been participating, all the women in our company, especially women, I would say, to all the, to participate in the networking events like HBA. There is healthcare related ASCO events, in healthcare related events. Apart from that, we do have a lot of comprehensive policies, like the most important one is the parental policy. I think my company does offer 6-month parental leave, which is unpaid leave, so which is great. And yes, there's a lot of resources, career advancement, training and development. I have seen people gone from generalist consultant to specializing in their presentation skills and quantitative and qualitative analysis, how they are working on their numbers, how they are presenting it to the client, how they handle clients. So I have seen those improvements in my company, and which is a lot of effort goes in training. So yeah, I think and the most important part is we promote. There's a good amount of equilibrium, between professional and personal life. So it's, as I said, we have most of our cohort is women. So you have a child to pick up, please go ahead, take a break for 2 hours, go. So amazing. I think nobody questions those priorities. They do know what priorities are. So yeah, that's about DKI.
Love it. Thank you. Shoa, how about Stacks?
Absolutely. So within Stacks itself, so as I mentioned earlier, we're rapidly growing across different offices. I think the one thing that we really tried to do is have an active women's network across different offices. And it really is to foster just a community and build that network for everyone, to have someone to reach out, to understand sort of what the experience is for each other. I think more in terms of what we do, across offices, we have lunch and learns that are focused on different topics that are relevant. We don't keep some of those topics only for women. We actually open it up to the whole firm because we strongly believe in allyship and having sort of allies with the male counterparts as well. And there are topics that I think are valuable for them to be to participate and have discussions around. Outside of that, we've been pushing to have sort of the speaker series, to have women leaders from different organizations, especially private equity and investment banking, come talk to our women and be able to discuss sort of what their experiences have been and how they've been successful as well. And we try to do monthly social events, breakfasts, happy hours, just to keep that sort of networking and add that sort of fun element to some of the more educational thought pieces that we do together as well. I think, one of the things that we're really pushing for as we're growing as a firm is having an offsite for women and where we can all get together, have an agenda that really helps us grow and for every level, how to develop to go from one level to the other, which is something that we want to really make happen in the next year. And I think from a recruiting perspective, more specifically, we try very hard to make sure that we're bringing in sort of a balanced and diverse group of people, in the funnel, as we're attending different events at universities or MBA schools, and trying to just balance that in making sure that women at our firm can participate in a lot of the recruiting events, but also make sure that our top of our funnel for recruiting is also balanced, so that as we're hiring, we're not skewing one way or the other, which is, slightly challenging in private equity and consulting, but we do what we can.
Love that. Patricia. Anna.
Sorry, it's just unmuting myself. So I think, we have a blend of, institutional programs and practices that are in place, like maternity leave, or paternal leave also. We have people that don't want to travel, and, we accommodate that. We have a flexible, you can live wherever you want. You don't have to be in a city where we have an office. We also have been very deliberate in terms of from a recruiting standpoint. So it has led us to recruit 60 to 7% female at the, it was just the result of the last few cycles, which is great because I think it feeds the pipeline. I do think that we should, just in general as a, as a cohort of, professionals, we should invest more in training. And I think training not just for our women, but also for our men that work in this industry. One of the things that I wanted to say when we talked earlier about, the misconceptions, so I'll just talk about it here because it's linked to this, is, we often think, female women that are, leaders or in a position of leadership are role models for the younger women consultants. I also think we are role models for the male consultants, because I think unless we kind of change and help raise a different generation of both men and women, it's going to be really hard for all of us in the future. And so I do believe that supporting women is also, training the men in consulting.
I love that. That's no small feat.
No small feat.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Regine, what about Palm Tree? What are y'all doing with women, for women, planning to do with women, hiring women, et cetera?
Sure. So at Palm Tree, like I said, we're about 120 people, and I think we're still working our best to recruit and bring on more women. We do have a good amount of folks that have joined in the last year and a half, so that we actually could do a women's group, which is great. There was a period of time there where I was the only client-facing female at our company, and it was luckily a very clear issue, and everyone else realized it. So we started to really shift and be really focused on that, and we took an entire initiative of the entire firm to be more inclusive, and we all signed the agreement that we were all going to be focusing on the inclusion, diversity, and equity. So it wasn't just the female male, but across the spectrum, and making sure that we fostered an environment where people were comfortable to talk about backgrounds, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, anything that could potentially be taboo if you were working in the 80s, let's say. Like, we've all realized that even still some of those issues are still an issue. My involvement in recruiting has actually been a little bit more nuanced, where we're looking at different organizations at universities. So Stanford Women in Finance is a really great example of a group that we've had a couple of conversations with. And it is, of course, it's Stanford, so incredible room of incredibly brilliant people. And but the interesting part is where that organization came from. There's a guys group, and everyone was very, I think the only women that were allowed in there was like Bill Gates's daughter. And until then we're like, well, screw this, we should just start our own group. And they did. So focusing on those organizations of the grassroots that's moving on right now, and saying, look, Palm Tree aligns with you guys here, so make sure that we're involved from a recruiting process there, and building that relationship at the university level is what we're focused on from a recruiting side. And then, of course, there's the fact that once you're here, we walk the walk. The policies are aligned so that we have equitable representation and a time of peace if you need it, if that means you need to go deal with your kids or personal life or whatever, or bereavement or what, as long as you're communicating and you're, telling people what you need. One, that helps leadership understand what they need to provide and how they can support their team, but also then you can actually get what you need so that you can then execute and be a good employee and learn and be a consultant. I will also commend to any of the younger folks here. One thing I'm very impressed about, and maybe these are some of the good things that came out of the pandemic, is there is a clear drive on the younger folks that say, look, I'm going to need my mental health days. I'm going to need to be able to have some flexibility. I will not be coming into the office 5 days a week. And you know what? More power to you. If you're getting your work done, who cares? If you're building your network, who cares? And be respectful about it, but really appreciate that energy that's coming in from young people these days. And I think that slowly is just trickling up. And I think listening to more podcasts, especially on private equity, Shoa, you may be a listener of Dry Powder. You can hear some of the leaders of these private equity companies talking about, like, look, this is not the same generation of people that were raised by parents that went through the Great Depression, for instance. There is a clear shift in our perspective of what we want to do. So find that organization that shifts and aligns with your values.
Love it. All right, great. Well, I'm going to move on now to our audience submitted questions. I know that there are a few others that are coming in the chat as well. So I'm going to do for each one of these one per person. And then if we have time, other folks can weigh in, but right now I'll just keep it to one per person. Stacks, I'm going to start with you. How can you differentiate yourself to ensure you have what it takes to excel in consulting as a female? So the question goes on to say, I personally could not put my head around the fact that any of the above gender, race, ideology are considered or used as way to assess someone's work. And I think we could all agree that that's true formally, but can you just highlight maybe some of those informal, success points and how in particular you would focus if you were a woman that was new to consulting?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that broadly, how I think about it and how we encourage sort of the women at Stacks is that, you have a seat at the table and you have the right to have your opinions and your work should speak louder than maybe some of the more, I think, subtle experiences that you have, even though there aren't overt maybe experiences of sexism or misogyny, and they're more, based on individuals. I would say the way to differentiate really is putting in the hard work and really being invested in what you want to do. And I think a big part of being in consulting is you should want to be there. It's not an easy job. At the end, we talk about work-life balance, and there are some late nights as you're growing in consulting. And so the big thing is, like, you should want to be here. And if you feel strongly about what you're doing, you should believe that you have a seat at the table for a reason, and you should have your opinions and be assertive, of course, everything respectfully. But, as some of the other panelists have also said, is, have your voice. You have a seat at the table. And if something is not right, something in front of you, you should speak up. And yes, there could be consequences, but I think it's in your right to be sort of part of the conversation in educating, other colleagues or male counterparts to be able to sort of grow in your tenure. But as a consultant specifically, I think it's about working hard. It's about really just delivering good work. It's really thinking, and I think it's similar for men and women. There's nothing different about that. I think there's the added burden of being a woman and having to address, instances where something is not right or you were overlooked for some reason. But again, it's really important to find your voice to be able to do that. And it doesn't come easily always. And that's why you want to have a network, you want to have mentors, you want to have peers that you can lean on and to support you through that sort of journey.
Love it. Second one is on work-life balance. Patricia, this one's for you. And there was a second part of it that kind of came in the chat, so I'll add the two of them together. So this one is, I'm a new mom of an 8-month-old trying to move into the consulting world, but I'm being told there's no work-life balance and that it's a bad idea for a new mom. I realize travel can be a big part of the job and that many consultants are back in the office. I currently work remotely. Is it possible to be a new mom with work-life balance as a consultant? The question that came through the chat was, how many nights a week do you put your kids to bed? So can you weigh in on one or both of those?
Yeah. So I have my 12-year-old and I pretty much put her to bed every night. Now, one thing that I did do, so when Isabella was born, I decided to take a break from consulting and I joined one of my clients, helping lead their internal strategy team. And so I was with them. I took a year off from work when she was born. I took a leave of absence, which is something you can do in consulting. So that is a perk. And then decided I wasn't going to go back. I went into my client. After 2 years, I really missed consulting. And so I went back to the firm I was at before, which is Kearney. But when I decided to go back, I said, I am not traveling. We have to make this work without the travel. And, the people I worked with at the time said, yeah, let's make it work. Right. And so it has been 10 years since I've been back in consulting, since my daughter was born. And I have pretty much been working from New York City. There are trade-offs to that, but I have made it work. And so, and not everyone has that constraint, right? Not every woman in consulting, doesn't want to travel, but that's how it's been for me.
I love it. Thank you. Great. Next one is for Palm Tree. So with a career in consulting, is there even such a thing as balance? Kind of a follow-up on this question, but this is less about momming and more just about the rest of life, sleep, personal life, and career. How do you balance those? And how would you recommend that people think about that?
That's a very fair question. And I think outside of consulting, if you figure that out, I think you figured out life. So the golden nugget there for you guys, but it just doesn't exist. You're never going to be perfectly balanced at all times. I think then you're just not human. However, I will say that much like M&A, it's a very cyclical path. And specifically in my practice, the financial due diligence world, it hits in the gas, everyone's on the gas pedal, and then it just kind of dies down a little bit. So I always know that it's going to be a sprint and then I can have a breather. So the general nature of your consulting work, that is going to be helping you balance, because you'll know when to expect the craziness and when you can have a lull. Then there's those consulting engagements that are a little bit more long-term. You're somewhere for 6 months, you're traveling Monday through Thursday. And then that's when you need to know that your balance needs to come from Friday to Sunday. So you really have to kind of manage your balance and where you need to get it, and also what's really important to you. We actually just found out, Palm Tree, we are getting a firm mandated 2 weeks off. And that not only are they not making the lip service about this, they're making our IT give out everyone automatic out of office messages so that we shut down, we give our clients a heads up and focus on ourselves. That means, and the fact that they kind of waited this long to also tell us, it kind of worked out well, because you can't just force your holiday and extension. You have to really think about, okay, what do I need? What do I need to focus on and balance to get myself back and up and running? We have a phrase at Palm Tree called stay frosty. And that's essentially what it means. How do you stay frosty so that you can then execute and be a good consultant? That starts with you. How do you take care of yourself? Do you meditate? Do you exercise? Do you go lay down flat? And I don't know, for you diehard fans, take your shoes off and go curl your toes on carpet. That's a very dated reference, but I hope some of you get it. But it's a big problem that you're always going to have, is how to deal with the balance. But I will also add on to Patricia's note on this is this is just what worked for me, and everyone else's journey is going to be very different, because you might want to be a mom, you might not want to be a mom, you might want to be a parent, you might not want to be a parent, you might have children that have 4 legs versus 2. This is an interesting lifestyle to pick, because you could say that if you spend the early part of your career ramping up and going gangbusters, and then as you kind of develop more of a leadership role, that's when you could kind of shift into more of the childcare. But that doesn't work for everybody all the time. Maybe you want to have kids and have that responsibility earlier on. Find the organization that works for you. Just because you want to be going into investment bank doesn't mean you have to go to New York and sleep under your desk with a pillow. There is an investment bank out there that doesn't require you to do that. So it's not lost on you. Don't throw out the opportunity because the cliche of the life as a consultant or an investment banker or anyone that works in M&A is like that. You can find something that will give you the exposure, the training, and of course the flexibility.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that, and this is, Jenny, I think more related to what I would have said for the fifth question that we were going to do, but I really do think that there are a lot of voices in consulting that want you to conform to status quo just because it's been done a certain way. And so I think there's opportunities still within your organizations that you go into, sort of challenge some of those norms. And sort of trigger the change that you want. And just because it hasn't been done before, it's not something that can't be done. And I think just as there are more women in leadership, as there's more representation, there is the opportunity to do that, other than finding the right firm that already does it. And so I just wanted to call that out because I think it is on us to be able to do that and not conform to the norms.
Thanks, Shoa. I love that. Well, you just jumped the gun on the following question. And so our final question is just one piece of advice that y'all would share to the listeners who are thinking about either a different career in consulting or a new career in consulting. What would your piece of advice be? Patricia, I'll go to you first.
So for me, I think it's have a very clear list of non-negotiables, both personal and professional. And then everything else becomes a trade-off, and be okay with the trade-off and be kind to yourself with that list.
So good. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining again. Ashita, how about you for DKI?
I think it's knowing your priorities, setting boundaries, communicate as effectively as you can. When you have to say no, go say no. When you have to put your foot down, go put your foot down. I think taking advantage of all the resources that is available for you. So yeah, this is what it'll be for me.
I love it. Regine, what about you?
I'm going to go with community, your support system. Make sure you have someone you can bounce ideas off of, someone that is aligned with you, either through a career or through some type of life experience that you can rely on, whether that's through your university or through friends, family. Just find that core group and leverage them.
I love it. And Shoa, back to you if there's the last thing that you want to share. I don't want to cut you short.
No, absolutely. I think I'll just add to what I would really, tell others is, be your authentic self. And sort of create your own path in consulting. I really do think it's on us as individuals to shift the norms and sort of set examples for different levels and juniors coming in as we sort of grow in tenure as well. And just because there is a status quo of, as Regine was talking about, you don't have to sleep under your desk and you don't have to work 12-hour days. I think it's something that we have in our power to be able to change as being part of organizations that are willing to do it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much to all of the panelists for joining us today. Javid is going to pop back the slide, and I want to just give a few closing remarks. First of all, I'll weigh in on the last question. I feel like I have been really open with a lot of you in my journey of sucking at Bain in my first 6 months because I really worked too hard on work-life balance and too hard on the life side. I was so terrified that they were going to own me as an organization that I actually didn't work hard enough on my own performance. And I held back on what I was capable of doing because I was so afraid of losing work-life balance. And so my kind of final tip is just both expect it and communicate it, but also earn it. And I really did those, I think, in the wrong order. I didn't earn it first and then expect it later. But I gained a lot of leverage in my career once I really got my A and G, as you would say, and really figured out what I needed to do to succeed. But the second is that y'all have, as you've heard today, there are these firms and more that are really actively working on adding more female voices to their community. So I just want to encourage everybody, you're needed, you're valued. These organizations would love to have you come in and interview. I'm going to be the one that's going to push you to say, kick your butt still and be the best performer out there. And don't expect anything handed to you on a platter, because as you've heard, there's a fight that's going on inside the space that continues for female voices to be heard really strongly. But overall, I think that you'll find a really tremendous place with a lot of advocacy, as you can see, dynamic peers that are going to be fighting alongside you, and a lot of opportunity in your career at large. So I thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you again to all of our panelists. We're looking forward to sharing more great resources with you in 2024. And if you've got any other final questions, I will stay on. Panelists, you are excused. I'll stay on for about 5 minutes to answer questions in the chat. But at this point, we will stop the full program and say thank you to everyone for joining.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful
Thank
week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
for having us. Thank you.
Fantastic. We're gathering some of the questions in the chat. We'll maybe answer those later. Anne Marie, I saw that you had your hand raised. Did you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Did. I am actually very interested in learning from mentors, and I wondered if any of you ladies that spoke today are interested in mentoring. I've been in project management for about 20 years, and I really want to get into a more people-oriented space, and so consulting has been highlighted to me by multiple management and leadership. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of looking, since I'm newer, is people I can talk to, mentor with, that kind of thing.
I love it. Well, you're going to make me give a sneak preview of something that we're going to do as an org in 2024, but we're opening up a community of folks, and there will be in there a subgroup for women in consulting, which will bring in folks like the people that we heard from today to share with the group, and it'll provide some deeper opportunities to make those kinds of connections. And so we will give more information about that formally in January of 24. It opens February 1st. And so yeah, just if you're not on our email list or one of our social channels, you'll find it in any one of those places. So, however is best for you to kind of just stay in touch with us on there.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think that that's going to be a really amazing opportunity to connect on some of these topical issues, support people, cheer them on, and also, get the kind of challenge that we all need when it comes to this type of thing. So yeah, we'd love to have you if you're interested in joining that.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep, great. I'm sure that was a question that a lot of people were asking, because weren't those women amazing? Oh my gosh. I just want to get together with drinks with everybody that was there today. Yeah. Anybody else have questions? Yeah. Dr. DT.
Yeah, I'm an academic. I'm a professor, and I've taught
Awesome.
business strategy, entrepreneurship, organizational behavior. How would I transition into a consulting role?
Oh my goodness, there are so many ways, and some of it will depend a little bit on the background that you have. I'll highlight a few of them now, but probably the best thing for you to do is, I think my colleague Eden is still on the call, is to just grab 15 minutes with Eden, and she can give you some more specific advice. But really, the the number one way is usually for somebody who's been in academia to begin to consult with organizations as an external expert. So you kind of come in and do either data analytics or topical expertise as a contractor for specific organizations. The second way is to take the skills that you've learned and to move in as a generalist consultant, but then you're kind of leaving behind your academic persona. And so it depends a little bit about how many hats you want to wear. Do you want to wear one hat at a time, or are you open to wearing a few? And then Eden can share with that. We have, I think, 580 companies now that we've gone through and profiled that are options for you to move into. So as some of the firms mentioned today, there are some really incredible opportunities, but the firms are very broad and very different that you could work with. And so again, we can help with that as well.
I should mention before I got into academia, I ran multi-million-dollar profit centers for a billion-dollar corporation, and I actually started their strategy group. So I do have some corporate background as well.
Come on. Yeah, that's amazing. That would be something that they'll definitely care deeply about, especially if you wanted to move in-house. And that might also help to focus you on where you'd want to go. So yeah, again, I think the conversations with Eden are free, 15 minutes. It's a way for us to get to know you a little bit. If there are services that we provide that can help you get you there, we'll share about those. But otherwise, Eden can kind of take a look at your background and give you some ideas and advice. So I think, Eden, if you want to just make sure you pop your calendar link back in the chat, that'd be amazing. Pooja,
I got it.
Go ahead.
Hi, Jenny. Firstly, thank you for organizing this session. I truly appreciate the candor that all of these wonderful women brought.
Yeah, it got real fast, didn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody just went right there. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was super amazing. I don't think it would have been possible to get these perspectives had this not been organized. So firstly, thank you for that. Second, I'm an experienced professional, and I'm currently working in the M&A realm, and consulting has always been very, very exciting to me.
Sure.
I also want to test waters, but I know that most of the firms have, they only take, say, MBAs or, other grads for internship opportunities. Are there any, maybe smaller firms that I could connect with for any internship kind of roles to test waters?
So no. And I'll tell you why. And I just, it's helpful, I think, to be really honest sometimes. The internships are basically like pre-sales functions for those programs. And folks will then go back and tell their peers and colleagues about the organization. It reduces their hiring costs. They get access to the greatest talent faster. So you can test the water in the concept of consulting. If you want to do a strategy sprint with us, that's one of the reasons that we created it. Because if you're like, I don't even know if I'll like it, come do it with us for a week. You'll know by the end of it. You're going to be led by a project consultant. You're going to do a real life project. You have to present, and you'll either just be on a high at the end of the week, or you'll just go so gratefully back to the job that you did, or you'll go find something else that you want to do. So that's kind of why we've created that type of program. But the internship just really isn't possible. Now you can test the waters through conversations about moving over full-time, but really it's only a full-time move from where you are. So hopefully that's helpful.
Got it. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. All right, y'all. I've got kids to go pick up from school. I don't always put my kids to bed, but I do always pick them up from school. That's been a high value for me. So thank you all for coming. Really love to be with you and look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks again for joining.